The other big story today is coronavirus. Disease is now being characterized as a global pandemic, threatens to take hold in the United States. As of yesterday, the number of coronavirus cases in this country had risen to 57.
And public health officials are growing concerned as new clusters of the virus pop up. Joining us now to talk about the U.S. government's reaction to the outbreak is Hill correspondent Reid Wilson. Reid has also written the book, Epidemic, Ebola, and the Global Scramble to Prevent the Next Killer Outbreak. He is an expert on these matters and the political response. Reid, great to have you.
There he is.
Yeah, I didn't even know this.
Didn't even know we had an in-house pandemic expert.
Indeed. Yeah. So, I mean, how are you, as someone who did such deep reporting on the Ebola outbreak and how it was contained here, how are you watching these events unfold?
I'll tell you, Tuesday was one of the scariest days of my career as a reporter. I went back and talked to a lot of the people that I interviewed for this book on the Ebola outbreak. People like Tom Frieden, who was the head of the CDC.
Right.
We had him on the show.
There we go. Jeremy Conondike, who was running USAID's Office of Foreign Disaster Assistance. Some disease experts around the world. They're using words like inevitable. The spread of the virus is so widespread right now that it is almost inevitable that it will come to the United States and spread in a significant way. And now we have to be calm about this. Like the people who survive disasters are calm and they act accordingly. But it is something to know, and we should, as Americans, be preparing for some kind of viral outbreak here in the United States. There are going to be significant disruptions in life, life as we know it. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said that is a high possibility right now. Right. So we have to be sober about this, but we have to also recognize that there is a real threat that this virus will come to the United States and spread in a significant way.
One of the things I saw, Reid, Harvard public health scientist says 40 to 70% of the global population could be infected. Does that track with what you're hearing as well?
I mean, that is what we've seen in previous outbreaks of something that is so readily transmissible.
Right.
I mean, we might start making comparisons between this and the Spanish flu, which happened in 1918, infected a huge percentage of the world's population, also had a mortality rate about the same as what we think 2%. This coronavirus is, at about 2%. I would suggest that the mortality rate is probably going to be proven to be much lower than that, because there are a lot of coronavirus cases, there are likely a lot of coronavirus cases that don't cause significant symptoms in otherwise healthy people. So the people who are most at risk are older folks who have underlying health issues and very young children. Both of them are the most seriously at risk in this.
And what do you make of the administration's response thus far? Are they taking this seriously enough? You had Larry Kudlow out saying, basically we've got this under control. Don't worry. That goes against contained. Yeah. That's the word. That goes against what the CDC is saying, what you're saying, what other experts are saying. How's the administration doing?
And this is a lesson that we learned from the Ebola outbreak in 2014, when the Obama administration basically said that this thing will not come to the United States, and then it did come to the United States. And Thomas Eric Duncan, a Liberian man, came to the U.S. He won the lottery to come to the U.S. A terribly tragic story. Reunited with his partner and his children, and immediately fell ill. Got 2 nurses sick. Just a heartbreaking story. But those cases, those 3 cases, rattled and undermined confidence in the federal government and in our health system. We already have 57 cases of this here. What happens if it really starts spreading? The president is taking an incredible risk in talking about how contained this thing is and how the government is on top of it, because if it starts spreading, that will be shown to be untrue, and then we have a further rattling of trust in our institutions at a moment when our institutions are best positioned to actually protect us.
And you know what? I think he did. I think it rattled him quite a bit to see the Democratic candidates going after him last night. Tweeted 3 times from Air Force One, announced today he's going to have a press conference, 6 p.m. I'll be watching that closely. Realistically, what can be done? And let's also lay out people's expectations for this. Sure. Most of the people who get sick, you're not going to be that sick, right? In terms of the data that we have out of China, only, I think, 1/5 of the cases were severe, meaning they required hospitalization. Yeah. But part of the issue is that it's transmissible because you can have it and not be that sick. You'll go about your daily life.
And that's a big problem. If this thing spreads in the United States the way it has spread in China, and there's no reason it wouldn't. We're not anything special. Yeah, right. I mean, we're humans just like Chinese people are humans. If it spreads here, here, if 1 in 5 cases requires hospitalization, you're talking about tens, maybe hundreds of thousands of hospital beds. The Chinese built a hospital with 1,000 beds in 7 days. We can't do that here.
Right.
And as a matter of fact, when we talk about how China has worked on containment, they've locked down entire cities. That doesn't work in the United States.
Right.
And there are advantages that the Chinese have because of their authoritarian form of government. They can encircle a
straight
town.
up go into your house
millions
and
of
drag
people.
you out and take you to a hospital.
And we can't do that here, which is why a lot of the hospital systems that are around the country, a lot of the state health authorities are looking to CDC for guidance. How do you triage these patients? Where can you keep them? Are you going to keep them in tents in parking lots? Are you going to keep them we may have a situation here where we simply don't have enough beds.
Let me ask you about this. So what are the legal frameworks that come down to a quarantine? Because I've seen speculation that, if it gets really bad, they could advise a 3-week quarantine.
Yeah.
People could cancel work, that type of thing.
A lot of things are advisory in this country, and that's good. Like we have the freedom, right? But it also that becomes then incumbent upon us to act responsibly. Stay home from work if you get sick. If you get sick, stay down until you're 100% better. Because if you go out and your immune system is compromised, that's when a minor case of coronavirus becomes a severe case of coronavirus. So you gotta take care of yourself. Wash your hands. Cough into your sleeve. The basics that we teach our 3-year-olds. Well, we got to remind ourselves too.
And of course, those human costs are the most important aspect of this, but we're also watching the markets tumble. I saw a stat that 94% of Fortune 1000 companies have already had their supply chain disrupted. What can we expect on that front?
So one of the big things that came out of the Ebola epidemic in West Africa is that more people died of not Ebola than of Ebola. So what I mean is in West Africa, it was malaria, it was tuberculosis, it was chronic diseases that are treatable. HIV. A big part of that is something that we face now, which is a supply chain shortage in drugs for other illnesses. If you've got hypertension, diabetes, things like that, your drugs are probably manufactured in China. So a lot of public health experts are saying that because this supply chain disruption is happening, we may face a significant drug shortage in the U.S. Coming forward. So one thing everybody can do, if you're on a prescription, make sure you've got a 3-month supply.
Right. Yeah. There you go. Well, everybody take heed of that. And
it's important to realize we shouldn't panic. There is no reason to panic. But we can prepare. And that's what we should do.
Everybody's
Best
super prepared.
advice.
Make sure we keep up with the CDC advisory. Thank you very much.
Get Reid's book.
Yeah,
buy the book.
There you go.
Reid, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll have more for you after this.